Posturing and threatening and questioning my right to be mad. Well, let them come for me or my people and watch the upheaval rain down. Just let them come. Can't stand in the shadows much longer. The battle is getting warmer. Let them come. Let them come. But I'm standing here waiting on the war cry while the choppers circle around in my red sky. Fly ashes, sweat ashes. The discourse is no more. We passing on to another dawn similar to past lives. If you knew your history, then you could probably transcribe what's happening down to the millisecond. The revolution is ever present, and steady on a constant stream. The only thing that ever changes are the hues on the screen. The same scenes come through on the local news. It ain't the German shepherds now, it's the principals and the pastors too, and the local crews, and the mother, cousin, grandmother closest to you. They got a whole generation, it's a new strange fruit, thinking they brought us for a birthright, dying while their lights bright. Posturing and threatening and questioning my right to be mad. Well, let them come for me or my people and watch the upheaval rain down. Just let them come. Can't stand in the shadows much longer. The battle is getting warmer. Let them come. Let them come.
Peace, misfits, and welcome to the very first The Escape Theory. I am your host, Raven Ekundayo. I'm coming to you right now from Peace and a Cup of Joe down on Pratt Street here in Baltimore. This is fitting. This is a really chill and peaceful space. And tonight there's an event that's going on called Verbatim Mondays, which is hosted by a dear friend of mine. Her name's Rebecca Dupas. And actually next month's topic, yes, I already have a topic for next month, is going to be about the importance of the open mic. And Verbatim is actually going to be one of the events that I'm going to be covering. So it's kind of cool that we're already here. This month's topic, however, deals with the power of your voice. The power of your voice. We can speak positive and negative things into the universe. So it's very important for us to know and respect the power that comes out of what it is that we have to say. The purpose behind what it is that we say and what we put into the universe. So I want to find out from everyone what they believe is the power of their voice. Do you believe that when you speak, it's to save the world? Do you believe that when you speak, it's to, I don't know, bring down the government? When you speak, is it to bring peace to children? It goes in lots of different ways. And I mean for positive and negative. When you speak, do you speak so that you can put other people down? It's all about having a discussion, a conversation about how we feel our voice impacts this world that we live in. We have some pretty amazing interviews this month, and I'm honored to start off the Escape Theory by having two very special people, activists in the community. One is singer, producer, MC, J Pope. I sat down with her in her studio and we had a great conversation. It was really peace. I enjoyed her a lot. I also sat down with author of Nice Guys Don't Finish Last and editor at Escape the Matrix magazine, Chavez L. Now this is my little brother. So this interview meant a lot to me because going from working so hard together to build up a magazine and watching him grow as a journalist to seeing where he is now releasing his very first novel, I really got a lot out of these interviews, and I hope that you do as well. Contributing to the Escape Theory this month and giving awesome-tastic commentary on the topic of the power of your voice is Supermom Eboni Brown, as well as Damone Williams. These two are going to blow you away with what it is they have to say. Two very powerful voices in the community, and I'm honored that they joined us for the very first episode of the Escape Theory. So now we're going to get to the interviews, the commentary, and the questions that I've posed to several people here at Verbatim Mondays tonight about what they think the power of their voice is. Chime in if you'd like. Hit us up on Twitter. My tag is RavoCEO. That's RAVOCEO. And let us know what you think the power of your voice is. And this is going to be great. So I hope that you enjoy the very first episode of the Escape Theory. Let's get started. There's a really mellow, cool energy to J Pope. But within all of that is this passion and this power that really comes out when she performs. I admire and respect her tremendously because she's an awesome artist and an awesome activist. She's an all-around awesome human being. She speaks from her heart and she tells her story and you feel it. I respect her tremendously because of the fact that she owns who she is. And for many of us, that takes years to be able to become comfortable in who you are. She's a wonderful wife. And I'm so happy that she and her wife took the steps to go to that next level together because they're a wonderfully beautiful couple. They're just awesome. They really are, and I enjoy being around both of them so much. So it was awesome to go to their home and sit in J Pope's studio to interview her and be within that great, awesome-tastic energy. It was a really good conversation that actually started without actually starting. We kind of flowed into the conversation. And it started with Occupy Baltimore and then worked its way all the way to the end, and you'll see for yourself. So check out this great interview with the one and only J Pope.
That was a couple weeks ago that I went.
This woman that was on the news, I forgot what it was. I don't know if it was WBAL or what it was. She made a really good point. I don't know what the point was.
But it was good, though.
Right? I'm like, it was a good point. That's what it was she said. Talking about why they were down. There we go. Because the city was talking about how now they're beginning to have a problem with the fact that everyone's down there and then they have to take action.
Right.
So she said, because she was one of the people, she said, I can completely understand where they're coming from. She said, however, and this is when she said this, I was like, damn, man, what you gonna say? She said, I see that you have an issue with the fact that you feel like we're creating this clutter that's making the city look dirty.
Right.
However, if you just walk several blocks up from the inner harbor and the empty buildings that you see, that can't change. We can always leave.
Right.
What's going to happen with those buildings, though?
Right.
That's why we're here. I was like, say it. What's your response back?
Exactly.
What's your response back?
That, like,
oh, when she said that, I was like, I need for that to be on YouTube. So someone could just play that over and over. Because I felt that way for years. Like, my friends who come here, my friends from out of town always love Baltimore. And I'm always like, okay, I'm in love with the history of the city.
Right.
That's what I love. You know, I love, if people only understood the rich culture that comes from this city, the black history of this city, you know, that's what I'm in love with. But every time I think about the fact that all you have to do is walk up a couple of blocks, and I'm sitting there like, dude, do you understand how really off the hook this place would be? You know? This disrespect that people have for the arts in this city. And I'm like, do you know what you could do with these buildings just for the arts alone? You don't want to build these buildings up, but if you put money into them, how awesome this city could really be.
Yeah, I had like a long conversation with Terrence just about like a lot of things he's trying to do at Terra in terms of like bringing artists in and like he'll let us practice down there sometimes just because he really wants to support the singing because he's like, you know, I'm not even from Baltimore for real.
He's not?
Nah, he's from like New York or something
Okay.
like that. So he's like, you know, when I came here and I just like the history of it, you got like these theaters that nobody's using anymore, like Pennsylvania Avenue during the Harlem Renaissance. Like the history of Baltimore is just crazy, and the city like doesn't acknowledge it at all. Like you can always say, you know, the people don't whatever, but is Sasha walking through gonna bother the shot?
No, not at all.
You know, people are like, you know, the people in the city don't appreciate the arts that are here, but if your government doesn't even make like it known nationally that this happened here, like the roots of a lot of things happened in the city, then it's never going to be appreciated for that. It's going to be appreciated for what you promoted for. How come you haven't brought in a television show to tape here that talks about what happened back then? You'd rather bring something that talks about The Wire, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and while that is a part of the city and that's valid, and it's an awesome show, I like the show, but there's other aspects to Baltimore, and if the people who are in charge don't even acknowledge that, then, you know, I can't really blame the city.
Yeah.
You know, you can't blame the people, so.
And that's a very, as far as what you were saying about, especially Penn North, the stories that my grandmother's told me, what is it, the Arc Social Club? Like, the fact that that's still there, it's like, I'm like, a piece of what this used to be still exists right there.
Right.
Why can't you just start from there and build, you know?
Right.
But it's also a thing of getting our people to understand their beauty, and that they have been brainwashed for so long to look at themselves as being less than. That it's so hard. I mean, even if it got to the point where the city was like, look, here, carte blanche. Just do whatever it is that you want to do.
Right.
Make pen off what you want. We still be fighting against ourselves. And that's the thing, getting our people to understand, okay, we need to be in a position where, because you look at other cultures and how much respect they have for their people, you know, and their culture and where they came from, and the celebration of it, you know. And it's so spread out with us, you know. It's like, okay, you have certain people that really feel this way, and it's not looked at the way that it is in other cultures. In other cultures, if you don't feel this way about your culture, the majority looks at you like, well, what the hell is going on? Why are you acting like that? Get yourself together. While with our people, we're like, okay, you know, well, do your thing. I'm over here doing mine. Right. And that shows so massively in this city, this separation, you know, of, okay, this is where I live. This is as good as it's going to get. Why do you feel like you have the right to come into my neighborhood and tell me that I should better? I'm perfectly fine the way. Not to, you know, go on this tangent to something completely different, but I'm not necessarily sure how you felt about Bill Cosby. But that's the reason why I was so confused when everyone was coming down on him the way they were, saying that they thought that it was disrespectful for him to talk about it in the open. Right. And I'm like, well, can somebody please talk about it in the open? Right. Like, why are you acting like this is something that's supposed to be kept behind closed doors? We did that. We tried that, and you see where it got us, you know? So why are you mad because he's saying things that, if we're being completely honest, everybody already knows? You really think that white America has no idea what's going on?
Yeah, that's true.
They can see it, you know? So, yeah. We got all the way from there, from Occupy Baltimore. How does a person get to the point where they can be comfortable with who they are? Let's say that you're in a situation where, for your whole life, you've been told that you're a nobody. Right. You know, and you've been beat down over and over again. From Jake Pope's standpoint, how do you get out of that?
It really takes your own personal breakthrough. You know what I mean? Like, I know people who are close friends who are still in the closet, you know what I mean? And walk around with me, and I think it's not really hard to tell that I'm a lesbian. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's a difficult thing to tell. And they'll walk around with me and, like, try, and they'll be gay, you know what I mean? Right. And they don't want anybody to know they're gay. And I live very openly and encourage other people to do that. And no matter how many conversations we may have or whatever, it's probably never going to happen. And that's just because what I find is people will say it's the outside sources. But the outside sources have created a thing in you that makes you stay that way. And in order for you to break that, it doesn't matter how many conversations we may have. It doesn't matter that you can look at my life and see me living openly and being happy about it. You can never associate yourself with having that life. Because you choose not to associate yourself with having that life. So it's all about making the choice to not live that way anymore. And I mean, that's all that there is. Everybody, if you just lived in the jungle and it's you and there's 5 other people who are telling you that you suck. Right. Nobody's going to come and say, hey, you don't suck. You don't, because it's only y'all. You know what I mean? It's going to take that personal breakthrough. It's going to take you just being like, yeah, I don't suck. Right. I'm tired of you telling me that. I don't suck anymore. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. Everybody has to make that choice. Everybody won't. Everybody should. But, I mean, I think that's what it's going to take. Because we spend a lot of time trying to change our environment. And I think that's important, you know what I mean? Like, you should fight for equal rights. You should fight for all of those things. But you can't change every environment. You can't make people not be assholes. You know what I'm saying? You can't do any of those things. The only real change that you can make is the change you make within. Because you can't change your environment, but you can change your perception of it. And so I think that's the key. When we learn that our perception is the driving force behind everything, it's over. You know, I'm like, what can you tell someone who, if you spit in their face, like Dr. King was a perfect example. You spit in their face, but they say, you can't physically hold me down. In my mind, I'm free and always will be free. Eventually that freedom will come because your perception of the world, that's just how it works. Yeah. So, I mean,
it's funny that you would say that exact point, because I've always told people that I think that they, and I mean, most people who, you know, when I say this to them, they're like, wow, never, really? am of that mind, you know? Like, I freed myself, or never existed in a certain way of thinking that a lot of people have. Like, I never thought that being gay was a bad thing. Ever. Literally my entire life.
Wow.
When people would say to me they thought that it was a sin, it was actually confusing to me. And I was like, I know that probably sounds strange to people, but I've always been like, really? Like, bad? I don't feel anything bad inside.
Right.
Like, I don't know if it's been my connection to God or what, but I'm like, at no point in time was man ever able to say anything to me that would make me think that God felt any differently about me. And so that's, you know, why whenever I would tell people about the different matrices that we have to escape in society, I'm like, it's not just one huge matrix.
Right.
It's a different matrix according to the person, the situation, you know, and the matrix of sexuality, you know, or the way society would see us, you know, especially when it comes to the homosexual community, is to make you believe certain things that, from a spiritual perspective, of course, you know, not everyone sees God in the same way. But at the end of the day, the love that you feel from this higher power, if you understand that it's a personal relationship first, before it gets to the point where, you know, you're doing fellowship with other people and building your relationship with this higher power through all of you together, it starts with you, just you, and your love of your creator. And that's where it always started with me. So when I would start with me and then go out into this space with other people, when people will feel so down and so beaten, like, well, my parents told me and my pastor told me, I'm like, well, you keep listening to everybody else telling you this, but what about just you and God? Like, when there's nobody else around and you're silent, you know? And I tell people when I was 19 or 20, I talked to God out loud for the first time. And I tell everybody, I'm like, even if you don't think you have the strongest relationship with God, do it just once. I won't even say you have to do it again. I just ask that you try it one time just to see where it is that I'm coming from, you know? The first time I did it, it was one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced. Because for a minute, I thought I was crazy, you know? And I tell people all the time, you know, I'm like, when I pray to God like, hey, you know, what's up? Like, this is how my day has been going, blah, 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 you know. I don't feel like you always have to do this, so even close your eyes, you know. That's where I am in my journey, you know. But I decided that I was going to talk to him out loud. I'll never forget it. I was in Orlando. My mother, my sister, my niece, they had all gone off to Disney World. And I was like, we've been doing that all week. I'm going to just chill here and read a book. So they left, and I was sitting in my sister's condo. And I remember like it was yesterday. And I was sitting there, and I said, hey. I was like, okay, dude, for the record, I feel real dumb right now. And I know that you understand where I'm coming from. So I'm not saying something that I should feel ashamed of, embarrassed. I know you know my heart. But this feels really crazy to be talking out loud to you, you know? Because I've been taught, goes like this, you know, in silence. And after it was over with, this long conversation, I couldn't even tell you how long it went on. When it was done, it was just like this, this release and this calm. And it was because it was just the two of us, you know? And then from there, I had to learn to get to a point where I could be in a room full of people and still do that exact same thing, even if it's not out loud, in my head, to quiet the entire room and then just have this one-on-one conversation. So going back to what it was that you were saying, you know, to bring it back to the entire point, it really is about when you make the decision. Because everybody in said room that I was just mentioning could all be staring at you and telling you how you're going straight to hell. If you believe it, then there you go, you know? But if the whole time they're talking to you, you're sitting there like, if only you knew. If only you knew my testimony, you know? Nothing that you can say is going to make me believe anything other than the relationship that I know I have with my God.
And it takes a lot to get there. You know what I mean? Because when you're growing up, and especially if you're a person that grows up, you know, really deeply rooted in the church, there's a lot of people in that community that try to mimic the voice of God. You know what I mean? They try to tell you that this is what God is going to say and this is what God's going to do. Like, I remember when I sat down with Natalie and I sat down and told my grandmother that we were going to be getting married. She was like, well, you know what it says in the Bible. And I was like, you know, I read the Bible, and I think that the way you're interpreting it and the way I'm interpreting it are probably two very different ways. And she was like, well, have you prayed about it? I was like, trust me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I've been gay for a while. I went through that whole process of trying to pray it off and shake it off and, you know, let go of the friends or whatever. You know, and I have talked to God quite extensively about it, and he and I have come to the decision that this is an okay thing to do. And she was like, well, I don't think that God would tell you that. I think you really need to pray. I said, okay. Well, all right, maybe your bond with him is a little stronger than mine. But I mean, and that's the thing. Like, people will say you need to speak to God to find out what you need to do, but then they'll tell you what God is saying. That's real interesting. Like, I didn't know he needed you to, you know, see all these trees and birds and amazing things he's invented, but you have to be the one to tell me exactly what it is that he's trying to say to me. That's very interesting how that works. So, I mean, when you're coming from that perspective and people have been telling you all your life that this God that you're supposed to have a relationship with is the God of wrath and the God of anger and the God that says that if you have feelings for someone of the same gender, you burning.
Right. Or
if you wear material that is blended of different, you know what I mean? You burning.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or if you eat shellfish, you burning.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Like, you got to come a little harder.
Yeah.
If you want to really, really make me believe that. And it's hard to break away from that and really try to experience God for what God really is. Because when you decide that there are certain things that you've been raised with that you're not going to believe anymore, sometimes it's harder to disbelieve than it is to believe a lot of times. Because you've been raised that way. You know, the sky is blue. When you pray, you know, dear Heavenly Father, we're coming before you today. That's how you do it. You got to have your intro. You got to warm up. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just jump into it and start praying. Like, there's all of these different things that you have to do in order to connect. And so when you make the conscious decision to say, maybe all that isn't what's real. You know what I mean? Maybe what's real is what I've been feeling all my life, but fighting because everybody's been telling me that it's wrong. That's a serious step to take. Like, it took me a long time. Even when I thought that that's what I believed, when I had to sit down and actually say, you know, hey guys, I'm gay. You know what I mean? Like, I really had to say, okay, well, what does this really mean? Do you really believe that this is okay? Or are you just doing it because you're too lazy to be in the closet?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm terrible at that. I'm very lazy.
She said, look, I don't have time no more.
Exactly. You know what I mean?
This is taking too much work. I don't really feel like doing all this.
Exactly. Like, do I really believe that this is the life that I'm supposed to be leading?
Yeah.
Or am I just doing this because it's the easier way to do it? And if I do believe that this is the life that I'm supposed to be leading, then there are certain things that I have to let go of. Like, I can't believe this thing and live this way. And then it's a natural progression, really. Because as you start to live, those older things that don't make sense fall away. And, like, the picture starts to become clearer and clearer and clearer. And then before you know it, you're like, oh, hell.
Right.
Can't believe I was, like, really engaged in all of that craziness back then. But it feels free. It feels good to be free. You know what I mean? Like, it feels good to finally be confident and say, I have no fear, I have no reservations about how I live my life. If I decide to have a kid, I will happily bring them up in a household with 2 women. If anybody got questions, come with it. Come at me, bro. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm very confident about how I live my life. And I live it with a purpose, and I know why I'm living it the way that I'm living it. I'm happy to share that with whoever has questions in an appropriate sense. So, you know what I mean? Like,
is that where Let Them Come came from?
It did come from that. I wrote that song after when we decided to get married. It's funny because in the community, in the gay community, we don't always feel like we need to have certain conversations with everybody. And so sometimes we end up just being, oh, you're 2 aunts that lived together for 30 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we get comfortable with that, and we accept that, and we don't, you know, we allow people to address us as, this is her friend. When y'all have been together for 20 years, y'all are married. Like, you know what I mean? And I decided that that wasn't the life that I wanted to lead. Like, I don't want to be worried about who I'm going to bring over. I don't want to, you know, I know that eventually I want to have kids. And so, when my kids come over, what now? Like, you know what I'm saying? What did we, the saying?
What you gonna call?
It's getting real complicated. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, so we're getting married. We're gonna do this like everybody does it. We decided we were gonna get married. Pulled at the ring. All right, cool. Let's tell our parents.
Yeah.
So I told my parents. It wasn't too much trouble. You know what I'm saying? Because they knew.
Right.
They knew already. But there were certain people when we told them that it was just like, well, you know, we don't necessarily agree with that.
Right.
And, you know, the Bible says, da-da-da-da-da.
Now, not to cut you off, but were they okay with the relationship before you mentioned y'all were getting married?
That's the thing. Because people will look at a picture on the wall and never acknowledge the pictures on the wall until you say, hey, look at this picture on my wall. And then they're like, I don't like that picture.
Right.
I never liked that picture, but I just ain't say nothing because you ain't say nothing about the picture.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it was. It was like, you know, we know that this is the situation, but we ain't say nothing because, you know, for what?
Right.
And I was like, and you can continue doing that, but I just want you to know how we will be conducting ourselves.
Amen.
We will be a married couple. If we cannot sleep in the same bed when we come over, don't worry about it. We won't sleep here.
Right.
Not a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it was more so setting our boundaries instead of allowing people to set them for us. So, you know, once I did that and got everybody's reaction, and I just got like, I got pissed off that what should have been one of the happiest moments in our life, which still is, was something that turned out to be so traumatic in a sense. You know what I mean? Because we had to deal with those feelings of other people. Other people's feelings were really affecting what was supposed to be our moment. And so I was like, you know what? To hell with it. You know what I mean? Like, when your grandma tell you something that hurt your feelings, you be like, damn.
Right.
Grandma, like, you was my ride or die. You know what I mean? Like, you saved me from butt whoopings, cooked my favorite food, put calamine lotion on my chicken pops, all of that. So, like, I was really hurt. And I didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, being a musician, it was like how I express myself. And I mean, of course, I'm not saying, you know, let them come to my grandmother like, what's up, son? But, like, I just thought about, like, everybody else and all the other people in the world that had to deal with, like, even if it's not marriage, even if you're in high school, like, you have children, not even high school, elementary school, who are killing themselves or thinking about killing themselves because their lives are so depressed that they feel like it's better to be dead than it is to just be who you are. And in elementary school, sexuality doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, it shouldn't, who somebody chooses to love or be with should not affect them in such a way that they would want to hurt themselves, that they would want to kill themselves. And it's because they don't get sympathy from the people who are supposed to give it to them. They don't have the support system in the places where this harm is taking place. Your parents can't go to school with you. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's all a part of the culture that we create. You know, there are safe spaces in schools, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? We are teaching our children a culture of hate. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that's not cool. And again, my whole thing is you can't change every environment. There are going to be people who are going to be like, that's wrong, it's disgusting, you know, I don't want anything to do with it, something is wrong with you, you got a disease. People are going to tell you that. And we can't always attack the people who are saying those things. It's terrible, and yeah, I wish they wouldn't say it, but they're always going to say those things. All that we can do is fortify ourselves. You know what I mean? All we can do is fortify our spirits. The children who are coming up behind us, show them an example. Like, I will live my life openly and I will live my life proudly so that anyone who sees me can see that it can be done. You know what I mean? And there may be things I may have to suffer because of it, and, you know, whatever. Let it happen. Let it come. And that was the whole purpose of it. It was like, you can't not live your life anymore. Like, I have friends who are, like, in their 30s who can't be in a relationship because they can't be out. You know what I mean? Like, you're 30-something. Are you going to be alone forever?
Forever, yeah.
You want a family. How are you going to make a family? You're going to marry a woman?
Right.
You're going to marry a man? Ew. That's disgusting. living your life because God wouldn't let it happen. And that's not to say, like, I would never tell somebody, just be out, you know, nothing's going to happen, just do it, because shit might happen.
Yeah.
You might get fired. You might lose friends. You might lose family. You might suffer some stuff. But, personally, you're fortified. You're being who you are. It's unfair to ask a person to not be who they are so that you can feel comfortable.
So, what's next for you musically?
Well, right now I'm working on an album with Funk Friday. So we're going to go into the studio in December. We should be finished recording at the end of December. That might be a little presumptuous.
Right. That's how it feels right now.
Yeah, there are 6 of us. It's probably going to take a little longer than that. But we'd like to be done by the end of the year. We'd like to be releasing it probably sometime.
Studio, live?
Fall. It's going to be studio.
Okay.
Well, funny. So here's the thing. We did a show at Goucher, and this like really awesome sound guy. It was the best sound we ever had. The sound guy came up to us afterwards, and he was like, "Yo, y'all are dope.
Right.
I want to record you." We were like, "Hey, we need an album. You should record it." So,
and it comes together.
And it comes together. And so he was like, "There's this this auditorium, this space in Goucher that was built like in a very detailed way, so that the sound is very, very good in there." And so since all the guys are from Goucher that are in the band, we have access to it. Like, you know, we pay a fee, we get to use the room. So, actually, Sweet Honey and the Rock, you know, they just perform there.
Okay.
So we're going to use that room. He's going to set up, like, we're going to all play together, so it's going to be like a live feel. But we'll get to go back and, you know, make sure that it's perfect. But it's going to be kind of like how Motown used to do it back in the day. So that's exactly how it's going to be. And we're going to have a little documentary of it. Yeah,
it's documentary.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe a little something, something.
Start off the year right.
A little something, something. But that's, in terms of recording, that's the plan now. Like, straight up hip-hop wise and what I do on my own as just J Pope. I have a couple more tracks that I want to finish, and I think I'm just going to be releasing them. You know, kind of like I did Let Them Come, and just let people, just because I like to make music and I want people to hear it, so I'm just going to release them and let people download them. If it comes up to enough tracks, I may make it an album. If not, I made music. You know what I mean? Like, you can't sit on the stuff you make. Like, you make it for a reason. Like, I feel like all your art is filtered through, you know, from your higher power, and so you're kind of obligated to share it. Like, I remember one time there was a spiritual leader I was listening to, and he was saying, you know, the meaning of righteousness is using your gifts or what you have in a righteous way. That's living righteously. That is righteousness. And I was like, wow, that's it's putting a lot of pressure on you know what I mean? But it means that if you have a particular gift or a particular thing that you do, then that is for you to share. Like, it's for you because, of course, it creates its own healing while you're making it, but it's also for other people. And so I feel like, you know, once I finish a track or a song or whatever, a poem, if I can write a poem, that it should go somewhere, you know, even if I just put it on Facebook, whatever, you don't know who reads it. Here, I did this thing, and I probably should put it here, so there you go. So I think that's probably what I'm going to do with my individual tracks, but the album should be crazy.
If you were speaking to a young brother or sister right now who is dealing with their sexuality, who is afraid of loving themselves for who they are, what would you say to them as far as the power of their voice?
I would say that it gets better when you make it better. Like, I know a lot of the whole it gets better thing can get a little complicated because, like you said, some people have some really terrible situations. And that particular people in that situation may never get better. You know what I mean? They may never change. They may never view you differently. The only person who can make a difference in that is you. You are the only person that can make that change. And it's a very difficult thing to do, but it's a very empowering thing to do. And it's a power that you always have. You are always in control of that situation. Because no matter what, you can change it. And it's up to you. So even if you're, you know, 12 years old. Like, I remember my mother used to make me wear dresses and all kinds of other stuff. But you can make it better. You know what I mean? In my mind, I had to continue being who I was. Even if I couldn't necessarily, you know, outwardly always be that person. Fortify your spirit. You know, that's all you got. It's you and your spirit and God. And God will, like, I just remember as being a kid, just like remembering and repeating over and over that God would just never put more on me than I can bear. So that must mean I'm one strong person. Because in order to survive these situations, that means I'm strong enough to take it. You have to be strong enough to take it. Because there isn't an alternative. Ending it is not an alternative. You know what I mean? Because you were put here to live. And you were put here to live as you, as who you are, as who God is directing you to be. So fortify your spirit and be that person. Nothing lasts forever. Your terrible situation will not last forever, cannot last forever. As soon as it almost feels like too much, you're empowered to take the next step. And then you're empowered to take the next step. But you have to be willing to fortify yourself. And it's not easy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say it's going to be when you're going to wake up one morning feeling like Mighty Mouse. Cause, you know, it's not going to happen. It's not easy. But you just have to resolve that you're going to live your life the way that you're going to live your life. And that your happiness is the most important thing. So, I don't know, man. I guess that's all I got for him.
Amen and ashe. Okay. And that's a unbelievably amidamorphous way to end. Okay. So, I would like to thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
This has been a great conversation. And what I loved about it is that we went into it without ever actually really starting.
True.
It was the flow of it.
Yeah.
And that's awesome-tastic. Thank you so much for being on the very first episode of the Escape Theory.
I'm honored.
It means a lot.
I'm honored.
All right, namaste.
As a poet and as an English teacher, I think that this is a special question for me because I believe in and spend a lot of time encouraging other people to understand and utilize words because I understand them to be powerful. But each of us has a story. Each of us has an experience. And even though we don't always recognize the importance of the things that we go through, sometimes we assume that they are unique to us, that it doesn't matter, that no one cares. We were given a voice for a reason, to share personal experience, or even to comfort others when they are bold enough to share their personal experience. So voice is extremely important. I don't think that anyone was put here to go through a circumstance and to never articulate the pain or the happiness associated with that experience, because we give life when we speak. Now, on the flip side of that, voice is also important because words can hurt. We grow up learning that sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I think that most of us know that to be something that we learn just to get through the hard times, but words get embedded in the mind and they live forever. So the negative side to the power of voice is that words are extremely powerful and they can shape the way that someone feels about themselves. They can shape the outlook, the perspective, how large it is. So voice is important for the reason that it carries life, depending upon how you use it. So use your voice well.
The power of my voice is to inspire. The power of my voice is cautionary in the respect that I have to be careful about what I say and to whom I say it, because it can sting, it can heal, and it can soothe. And it took me a long time to recognize the difference. So I'm very well aware of the power of my voice. It comes up when I'm speaking, it comes especially when I'm singing. And that power helps me to deliver a message that comes from my heart to whomever is there to receive it. That's the power of my voice.
The power of my voice. So I believe the power of my voice would be to promote change in the daily lives of people, and basically change in things that I'm learning and I'm believing in and I'm growing for the better. For example, nutrition is very important. So, and I know a lot of people really agree with that, and especially in like the Black community. I think the power of the voice is to talk about things that you learn and you experience to people who may not otherwise learn or experience those things, to promote conversation, to learn. Power of the voice is to learn, because you learn from people and with the experience if you can be open to it. Yeah, that's the power of my voice. That's
Alright, the power of my voice is to represent one of the infinite possibilities. You know, it's just a point, you know, and it's my point through my experience, and it's just to let you know that there's another guy who, and this is what I saw, and this is what is from my perspective, you know. And you may agree, not agree, or it doesn't really matter, you know. And just one of the points, quantum physics, you know what I mean? All right.
I can't really say for certain about the power of my voice, but I know the power of my silence is just as deafening. The power of my voice means freedom. There were certain words that I had to say to free myself from a lot of situations that I were in that weren't negative. And I realized that I put myself through a lot of things longer than I had to because I didn't open my mouth and say something. I freed myself out of family situations by saying that what I wanted, what I didn't want. I freed myself from a not good relationship with parents. I freed myself from a marriage that I realized had run its course. I freed myself from a lot of issues that I had as far as emotional things that I felt inside that I knew nothing about. Because if it wasn't for the power of my voice and being able to stand up and say something, I wouldn't have realized that I needed to be a writer. and be a writer and understand that people also have something to say and to help them as far as their grammar and their diction and their enunciation. There's a lot of power in the voice because it sets people free. It sets a lot of people free. It's only powerful when you realize just how damaging and also just as powerful silence is. And when you realize how powerful the negative is, you'll find out that there's something strong enough to overpower that negativity, and that is the voice. It overpowers the silence. So I know exactly that's how powerful the voice is.
When I first decided what the topic was going to be for the very first episode of the eXcape theory, this next brother is who came to mind. Damone Williams and I actually met on Twitter via a mutual friend of ours, B. Sharice Moore. And when I first started conversing with this brother, I realized that he had very strong views on pretty much everything. But then we ended up creating a bond off of the fact that both of us are so passionate. And mark my words, when it gets to the point where this brother really fine-tunes his message, and when he really focuses directly on exactly where he wants to go, the world needs to watch out. His voice is powerful. And we often joke that he's more Malcolm and I'm more Gandhi. But at the end of the day, it's awesome to know somebody that is as passionate about helping people as I am. And I figured it being extremely fitting that he would be on the very first episode of the eXcape theory. Ladies and gentlemen, sharing what he believes is the power of his voice and what the power of your voice should mean to you. Damone Williams. Enjoy.
Hi guys, my name is Damone Williams, and I was asked by Raven to participate in this new venture online that he's got going on, and I'm excited and honored to have been asked to participate, so here we go. A little bit about me. I'm Damone, I'm 22, I'm an artist, an artivist, I like to call myself, meaning I love activism. I have a lot of different causes I stand behind, and I use my art to speak for my activism, so I call myself an artivist. Yes, so that's a little bit about me. I want to talk today about the power of the voice. Everybody has a voice. Every last person on this earth has a voice. Now, whether it's one that cannot be uttered, it's not a vocal voice, there is still a voice. An artist's painting is a voice. An artist's poem is a voice. Everyone has a voice. One of the people that I look up to who speaks a lot on this power of the voice and power of words is Dr. Maya Angelou. And she is somebody that I try to model myself after in a lot of different ways. And she has a quote that I have here that says, "Someday we will be able to measure the power of words. I think they are things. I think they get on the walls. They get in your wallpaper. They get in your rugs, in your upholstery, in your clothes, and then finally into you." And that is so powerful because when you think about it, you have to think about how you have been made to feel when someone has said something to you that was either encouraging or discouraging. You got to feel that feeling. You have to be an empath in that regard and understand it to get why you have to watch what you say. Watch how you speak. Watch what you call people. Watch calling people out of their name. And you got to start encouraging more people. Encourage your babies. I am a person who is all about self-empowerment and finding the power within. And a lot of people have been stripped of that. They've been stripped of this idea that they can do by themselves, that they need some outside force to get to a place. I don't believe that. I believe that we have been crafted and created to handle our own. And we have been made to find the answer for ourselves, within ourselves. But so many of us have been taught and indoctrinated and led to believe that we have to seek outside help to empower ourselves and to give our voices power. No. You have to understand that we are complete beings. We were not created with this whole, neediness. We weren't created like that. We were created complete. And somewhere along the way, something happened, and people began to think that they needed outside help, outside influence, outside whatever. And that's just not true. Now, I'm not saying that you don't need friends and you don't need people who are going to mentor you. You don't need outside counsel. You can use it. It's great. But when people believe that that's all they need and that that's what they have to have, that's where I find my issue. And most of these people are the ones who silence themselves. I know a lot about silencing myself because for a long time, I was the silent one. Now I talk so much, people ask me to shut up. But at one point, I spoke very rarely. Because I didn't feel like my voice was necessary. I didn't feel like my voice was powerful. I didn't feel like it was something that people were going to listen to and that it was going to give anybody anything. But I've gotten to a place now to where I know that everybody's individual voice is powerful. I remember being silenced because I was a black kid growing up in America. I remember being silenced because I was a black kid growing up in America who happens to be gay. I remember being silenced for all of these things that I had no control over. I didn't get to choose that, I was going to be born black. I didn't get to choose that I was going to live the life of a gay man. I didn't get to choose these things, but I was still silenced because of them. And we do that often. We silence people because of things that they have no control over. We silence people, and not all the time is it telling someone to shut up, but it's ignoring people. It's not giving people that benefit of the doubt. It's not giving people the opportunity to prove themselves. We silence people. You silence your child who says, "Mommy, I want to be an artist." But you say, "No, you need to be more practical. You got to make sure you can pay bills and take care of a family." "But no, Mommy, I really want to be an artist." "No, it's not practical, Nobody in this family is an artist. You're going to be a doctor." But if that's not your child's passion, you've just silenced him or her. And they're going to grow up possibly not living out their dreams and remaining silent. You may have just silenced the person who is going to bring an artistic revolution into this world, which is much needed right now. But because of your fears, you've silenced them. And that's definitely something that is dangerous and we got to watch. Another thing Maya said is that you have to understand that the brute, the bigot, and the batterer, they're all a child of God. And whether they know it or not, they are a child of God. And the most important thing in that is that we have to know that they are a child of God. And whether you believe in God or Jesus or Buddha or Allah, whatever you believe in, they are a child of that. And whether they know it or not, you have to know it. You have to know it, and you have to operate as such. That means that when they are offensive or they hurt you, you have to understand that they are a child of God, and I'm not going to give them back what they just gave me. The power of the voice. A voice is not always necessarily something you hear, something vocal. A voice may be just you being, you standing for something. Don't silence. Let's see, what else? I'm trying to think on my feet because I don't like doing these videos and having them be blocked out and all that stuff because I don't feel like it's natural and I don't feel like it's organic. I live for organic environments and things like that. So I like to just speak from my heart and, give it to you. So I think I really have reached the end of what I want to say. I want to encourage people to find that voice. Silence everything else around you for the moment and find your voice. And then speak. Find your voice and then speak unapologetically. That's that, I think. Yes, find your voice, speak unapologetically. I'm Damone Williams again. I hope I see you guys next time. Let me know what you think. I think this is a good little thing going on that Raven has. Yeah, let me know what you think. Talk to you guys later.